It's that time in the month again. This is my February 2021 Solar PV and Tesla Powerwall 2 performance here in the UK, along with our Tesla Model 3 and Kona electric costs and usage. And did we beat our stonking solar record for the month of February 2020? So stay tuned and find out. Hi, John here and welcome. I'm filming this in the house today as my studio is cold as I forgot to put the heating on. So a bit of a change of background for you. I'm going to take you through our Solar PV and Tesla Powerwall 2 performance for the month of February 2021, plus the usual stats, usage information for the Tesla Model 3 and the Hyundai Kona Electric, and our MyEnergy, Eddy and Zappi. In the description down below is a list of all of our components for our system, so please have a look down there if you're not familiar with our setup and system. Please comment, like and share, as these actions help get this video shown to more people on YouTube, which in turn obviously helps my channel grow, and I appreciate your support in doing that, so thank you very much. Finally, if you are a subscriber, then thank you very much for subscribing. If you're not, and actually 90% of you who watch my videos aren't, then please consider hitting the subscribe button if you like my content. Subscribing is free and there's no obligation. Once subscribed, hit the notification bell icon to get notified of new videos when I upload them. Okay, let's get straight to it. I'm getting a bit giddy now when I start looking at this because our solar day is getting earlier. In February, our earliest start time for solar production was 7:25 in the morning, and the end of our solar day can be as late as 17:25 or 5:25. Compare that to January, where the best start was 8:05 and the best end of day was 4:10 in the afternoon. We've basically got a whole hour of extra generation opportunity, and that's only increasing. Spring is certainly on its way, and we saw peak generation figures of 6 kilowatts twice during the month of February, once on the 11th and once on the 18th. Our peak in January was actually pretty good at 5.4 kilowatts, and that was on the 21st, so towards the end of the month. So, how did we get on then? In February, we produced a total of 351 kilowatt hours from our two separate PV arrays. We had an average daily solar generation of 12.6 kilowatt hours for the month. I was interested to see how we would compare to February 2020, as that was a bumper month for us. And it had an extra day as it was leap year. And I'm pleased to say that we were actually close, only 33 kilowatts separating the 2 years. Perhaps one more really good solar day and we would have equaled that figure. If we look at the split of the two arrays, our 4 kilowatt array produced 219 kilowatt hours and our newer 2.34 kilowatt array produced 132 kilowatt hours. You can certainly see the impact and benefit of the extra daylight hours that we're now starting to get. Let's have a look at the percentage of self-power from the solar and the Powerwall. Our Powerwall is in cost-saving mode. We're with Octopus Energy on their Agile tariff, and in cost-saving mode in the Tesla Powerwall, the battery provides the power to the house during peak period between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. every day. During February, we were 8% self-powered from the Powerwall and solar contributions. And as you can see on this stacked chart, that's 24% came from solar generation and 26% came from the Powerwall. If you compare that to January 2021, how the sunshine has really boosted the solar figures, which has meant that Powerwall has had slightly less work to do. And most of this is down to the additional daylight hours. meaning that the Powerwall kicks in at a later time in the evening to power the house. We now enter peak time at 4 p.m, generally on solar power rather than on battery power as we did in January. This particular chart is our percentage of solar power during peak and off-peak time period supplied by the Powerwall and the solar PV. Peak time period is set within the Tesla Powerwall app from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. and the off-peak is set from midnight or half midnight, 12:30 to 7:30 in the morning. And the remainder of the day is normal rate, or shoulder rate as the USA often refers to it. The percentages on the chart represents the ability to supply the house from the battery and or solar rather than pulling from the grid. The months along the bottom are actually only populated with data when we are in cost-saving mode within the Powerwall app. The red column represents the 4-hour peak period from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. every day. And in February, we were 97% of the time during that 4-hour peak period, we were on battery and or solar power with no pull from the grid, which means there's a 3% grid pull during that peak time period. And I've extracted the smart meter reading data from the Octopus Watchdog app. And that shows that 3% grid equates to 2.35 kilowatt hours over the month, which costs 66 pence. So not really anything to worry about. The green column there represents the remaining 20 hours of the day. During that time, we were on battery and or solar power for 11% of the time, and we'll certainly see this percentage grow as the months progress towards spring and summer. Some of you will recall that we had issues with our smart meter not working happily alongside our Tesla Powerwall. I'm pleased to report that this is now working fine. Just have a look at these grid pulls. This is when we were on battery power during peak. Basically next to nothing, just a few watts are being pulled, whereas before we were registering sort of 1 kilowatt plus, 1 kilowatt hour plus. PV year-on-year chart. So here's the month of February, our solar generation going back to 2012. So 2012 to 2019 totals are for the original 4 kilowatt system. The 2020 onwards figures are for both arrays. If you recall, the original 4 kilowatt array produced 219 kilowatt hours in February, and the new array achieved 132 kilowatt hours, giving us the 315 kilowatt hour total that you see there. Powerwall in and out chart. The Powerwall had a 86% round trip efficiency for the month, for what it managed to store versus what it was able to supply. We stored 299 kilowatt hours and it supplied 257 kilowatt hours. I'm really pleased with the Tesla Powerwall overall. Well, I guess what I like about it is its responsiveness. It will deliver 5 kilowatts instantly, so there's no ramping up or delay in supplying power. If you turn on the oven and the electric hob together, they can pull up to 4.8 kilowatts. The battery just covers that load instantly. There's no need to pull from the grid until the battery has ramped up to supply that full need. It's very impressive from that perspective. This is the day-by-day chart. This gives you a bit more granular detail on what's happened day by day. The legend, as always, is blue is house usage, yellow is our solar generation, orange is export to the grid, and red is import from the grid. The solar activity was fairly consistent over the course of the month, peaking towards the last few days. Export to the grid was small amounts spread over the month. The highest single export was 5.1 kilowatt hours on the 27th of February. And this was a large solar production day at 26.4 kilowatt hours. So it was actually the third highest day of the month and straddling the two top days of the 26th and 28th. We've had some high house usage days. You can see there are 83 kilowatt hours used on the 7th of Feb and 75.4 kilowatt hours used on the 13th of Feb. These were days when the Powerwall charged 100% overnight. One of the glass kilns would have been on, and we would have charged one of the cars overnight as well. The 7th of Feb had some really low overnight rates on the Agile tariff, as did the 13th of Feb, which is why we took advantage of it to charge the cars, run the kiln and so on. And you'll find that all of the high peaks of home usage coincide with the cheap overnight Agile rates. I won't bring all the graphs up, it's a bit tedious and a bit repetitive, but you get the flavour and the reasoning behind the high grid pulls showing on that day-by-day chart. As with many Agile users, I look ahead at the weather forecast to the following day to balance possible sunshine versus cheap overnight unit rates and decide whether to use the power overnight or hope there's sufficient solar the next day to charge the car after the Powerwall has been topped up. Often in the winter, there's just not enough solar generation during the day, hence the additional grid pull. Just scrolling down, I'm just going to have a look at our overall totals. I've corrected the legend labels on here, so thank you for the two of you that pointed that out, that my labels were reversed for grid import and export. This chart shows the overall totals for the 4 data sources we've just looked at in the day by day. The house usage shown in blue is perhaps the key one to focus on here at 1,099 kilowatt hours for the month. I'm going to pass over the solar as we've already covered that. And the remaining 2 columns are grid import and export, which I'm about to cover in more detail in the next charts. This chart shows our average daily house usage and our average daily grid usage over the month. Our average daily house usage was down again on the previous 2 months at 39.3 kilowatt hours, although in fairness it's almost on par with January. That's the blue line on that particular chart. Better news on the daily average we've pulled from the grid. This was 28.2 kilowatt hours in February and showing a large drop from the previous 2 months, which is the red line. This chart is what we sent to the grid. So we sent 22 kilowatt hours of excess solar generation back to the grid in February, which is about on par with previous months, so no real worries with this figure. If we look at what we pulled from the grid, this chart tracks what we pulled from the grid each month. In February, we dropped down the amounts we pulled to 790 kilowatt hours. It's nice to see that falling away, despite some days where we had large grid pulls. And remember, although that total may look like a lot of electricity being consumed and therefore expensive, it needs to be coupled with the unit costs for that power. Looking at the Octopus Compare app, our average unit cost for electricity was 9.669 pence per kilowatt hour for the month. So 790 kilowatt hours at 18 pence per unit, which is a more typical UK average, works out a lot more expensive than 790 kilowatt hours at 9 pence per unit. So this chart is for our eddy, which heats the hot water by diverting excess solar energy once the Tesla Powerwall battery is full. February managed to improve on our January's total, so 17 kilowatt hours for the month. The summary totals are rounded up in the eddy, therefore the cumulative total in column C, this year's kilowatt hours titled, shows 28 year to date for 2021, whereas the individual totals for the months of January and February show 10 and 17 respectively, which obviously don't add up to 28. And this actually also impacts column D, the cumulative kilowatt hours. So the figures shown in this column reflect the readings shown on the eddy screen. Just a bit of information for you. Finally, onto the cars. Tesla Model 3 covered 653 miles during the month, bringing its overall total mileage to 8,844 miles. We had a family bereavement which necessitated 2 trips to South Yorkshire, which accounted to 500 of those miles, hence the sort of unusually high mileage covered during lockdown. We did 2 supercharging sessions at Grantham on the A1, where we added a total of 66 kilowatt hours. There was actually no cost for these charging sessions, thanks to those kind individuals who used our Tesla referral code when ordering their cars, resulting in us both getting 1,000 free supercharging miles. So thank you very much for that. That was much appreciated. Home charging on the Tesla was 214.05 kilowatt hours, of which 23.6 kilowatt hours was free from excess solar. We'll be seeing that percentage of 8% rise over the coming months as we get more sunshine. So the 653 miles covered in the Tesla during the month cost us £0.03 per mile. The Kona covered 198 miles in the month and now has a total mileage of 11,104 miles. All charging was done at home, where we added 60.06 kilowatt hours via the Zappi. Much of the Kona mileage was racked up with the 2 trips to the main dealer for a warranty repair for the passenger seat sensor. Don't know if you saw a previous video on that. It was a faulty, resulting in the seatbelt warning sound continuously beeping even if no one was sitting in the front passenger seat. First visit was to diagnose the issue and then order the part. The second trip was then to fit the part. It's all sorted now, covered under warranty at no cost. I suspect I'll be going back again soon when the battery pack recall is announced in the UK, which means we should get a brand new battery pack for the Kona. So the 198 miles covered in the Kona during the month cost us £0.03 per mile. Please comment, like, share. All of those actions help to get this video shown to more people on YouTube, which obviously helps my channel grow. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video. Take care. Bye.